The French army has announced its forces stationed in Niger will begin withdrawing from this week. It comes after President Emmanuel Macron said the disengagement operation would be wrapped up by the end of the year. Paris has around 1,400 troops stationed in Niger as part of that country's fight against jihadists across the Sahel. We can now bring in France 24's international affairs editor, Kethevane Gorjestani. Kethevane, great to see you. What more details do we have of this withdrawal?
Well, initially, not so much, because the statement from the French side was pretty short, just saying that those troops would indeed start exiting Niger this week, and that withdrawal would be complete by the end of the year. The only detail that we got from the French side was that these troops will actually leave the continent of Africa. There was at some point question about whether they would maybe temporarily relocate. These troops will be returning to France eventually. Then we had a statement from the Niger leaders saying that this withdrawal would start with the about 400 French troops that are based in Walam, in the Walam French base, which is north of Niamey, which is the smaller base, and that would be the beginning of the withdrawal. And now, according to reporting from some of our colleagues at RFI, at our sister station, they say that this withdrawal has actually started today. The process has started, it's really the beginning of the process, and confirming that it is indeed the Walam base that is starting the process. Those about 400 soldiers are expected to move back to Niamey for a first step and then be flown back to France. That's how the process is going to go. And then whoever is left, which is about 1,100 troops in Niamey, will gradually be leaving along with all the infrastructure of that base to try to have that full withdrawal by the end of the year.
And the fact that they're coming back to France and not being redeployed, where does this leave the counterterrorism fight in the Sahel?
Well, yes, this was really Niger, and the French force in Niger was really the heart of the counterterrorism Western efforts in the Sahel. And so it's going to leave a huge gap. Now, France, of course, still has bases across the Sahel, but not anywhere really close to this heart that is Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, where really the heart of the insurgency is located. And remember, France has been, if you can say, kicked out of Mali, of Burkina Faso, of Niger, the three countries that had coups. And so France is having to move out. There are still some European forces, about a few hundred German, Italian, European Union troops, but mostly who is left in Niger for the counterterrorism force? That's basically the Americans, about 1,100 troops. And that's why you're seeing the Americans being extremely careful in how they deal with the junta in Niger. They so far have not used the word coup to talk about what is happening in Niger, because that would mean the end of economic and military aid to Niger coming from the Americans. They are still there. They've restarted operations on their two bases in Niger, even though they're saying right now no counterterrorism operations. They're simply restocking and starting aerial missions from their bases in Niger. But really, the Americans show how important Niger was, at least up to this point, in the fight against counterterrorism. And the Americans not yet ready to fully give up on that country, which is really the last big base for Western forces when it comes to Islamist insurgency in the region.
It was interesting to see how Paris and Washington responded to that coup so differently. Thank you very much for that, Kethevane. Kethevane Gorjestani there.